You gave a haircut to some homeless guy. Are you out of your mind? You're fired. That's exactly what the boss said. Loud enough for the whole salon to hear and cold enough to make the room go quiet. Kelly didn't argue, didn't beg. She just put the scissors down and walked out. No tears, just dignity. But 30 minutes later, something happened no one expected because the mayor showed up. And behind him, half the town. They weren't there for drama. They came for justice. This is the story of a quiet hairstylist, a forgotten veteran, and one small act of kindness that made a whole town stand still. Welcome to Grateful Stories, where tales of compassion and kindness are told. Let's uncover what really happened. Millville was the kind of town where everybody knew your birthday, your dog's name, and which side of the high school football rivalry you stood on. For most folks, it was peaceful, predictable, but sometimes even a quiet town could become the stage for something extraordinary. And that summer morning, I happened to be there to see it all. My name's Clara Reynolds. I worked reception at Sydney's hair studio on Main Street. I'd been there 5 years, mostly booking appointments, sweeping hair, and occasionally sneaking jelly beans from the customer treat bowl. But on that particular day, something happened in our salon that the whole town would remember. It started with Kelly. Kelly Monroe wasn't like the other stylists. While others chased trends, Kelly brought soul. She remembered people's names, asked about their sick moms, and could calm a child mid-tantrum with a joke about dinosaurs and glitter. She wasn't loud, but she had this quiet way of making you feel like you mattered. That morning, she came in carrying 2 coffees, her cheeks pink from the sun. "Morning, Clara," she smiled, setting her purse down. "Ran into someone you wouldn't expect." "Who? Jason Hart?" I raised a brow. Everyone in Millville knew Jason. Early 40s, former Army infantry. He used to walk with pride back when his uniform still fit like armor. But time hadn't been kind. His wife left. His jobs didn't last. His eyes, they were tired in a way most people didn't understand. "He looked rough," Kelly said quietly, "but kind, still him." I got him coffee, invited him back for a trim. No charge. I didn't say anything right away, because I knew Sydney, our boss, wouldn't like that. Sydney Van Dorn ran the studio like a cruise ship captain with a calculator. Every minute, every dollar, every square inch of product mattered to her. If a kid sneezed near the dye counter, Sydney called for a cleanup. If a client was 5 minutes late, she canceled the appointment and kept the deposit. Kindness wasn't part of the brand. "He really needs it," Kelly added, more to herself than to me. Just something to feel human again. She got to work, cutting Mrs. Green's curls and making her laugh the way she always did. But I kept glancing at the door, wondering if Jason would come. Around 1:20 p.m. he did. He stepped inside, hat in hand, looking unsure. His jeans were worn, his boots dusty, and his face, half covered by a wild beard, held a flicker of hope. Kelly smiled and waved him over like he was a longtime client. "You came," she said gently. "If the offer still stands," he mumbled. "It does." I saw Sydney glance up from her office glass window. She didn't say anything yet, just narrowed her eyes. The salon was quiet, just 2 clients left. So Kelly settled Jason into her chair. She wrapped the cape around him, combed through his tangled hair with patient hands, and started snipping. As the clippings fell, something else changed too. Jason started talking. Nothing dramatic, just bits and pieces. He told her how hard it had been to sleep lately, how he missed cooking Sunday chili with his daughter before the divorce, how once he used to fix trucks and laugh a lot more. And Kelly, she just listened. No judgment, no pity. That's when Sydney came out. She didn't interrupt. Not yet. She stood nearby, watching. Her arms folded, her lips pinched. The air grew tighter with each passing second. Then Kelly finished. She brushed the last of the trimmings off Jason's shoulders. His beard was neat, hair trimmed just above his collar, and for the first time in years, he looked like himself again. He turned to the mirror and smiled, not wide, but real. "How much do I owe you?" he asked. "Nothing," Kelly replied. "This one's on me." That was the moment the air snapped. Sydney stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said, voice icy. "Jason, is it? We don't do charity here. You'll need to pay." Jason froze. I didn't ask for this. Kelly invited me." She said. "It doesn't matter," Sydney snapped. "We're a business. If Kelly wants to play social worker, she can do it on her own time. Now, either you pay or I'll cover it from my paycheck, Kelly said quickly. Sydney's eyes narrowed. You're not getting it. You don't get to make that decision. You're done. Get out. Everything stopped. Even the curling iron on station 2 seemed to go silent. Jason looked at Kelly. I'm sorry. She shook her head. Don't be. It was worth it. And with that, she handed me her scissors. Walked to the back to get her bag. What none of us knew was that Jason was already telling people, and Millville was about to erupt. Jason didn't go far. After stepping out of the salon, he stood there for a moment on the sidewalk, looking down at his freshly cleaned boots, his reflection faint in the window behind him. The haircut had lifted something off his shoulders, but now a new weight had taken its place. I saw him through the glass, standing there like a man caught between pride and shame. Jason, a familiar voice called from across the street. It was Marla Thompson, owner of the diner next door. She'd known Jason back when he used to sit at table 6 every Sunday after church. Back when he still wore medals on his jacket and had a daughter who'd braid his beard for fun. You look sharp, she said, wiping her hands on her apron as she stepped closer. Jason forced a smile. Kelly cleaned me up real good. She's a gem, that girl. Always was. Jason's face darkened. Not anymore, apparently. Her boss fired her. Said I didn't pay. Marla's jaw tightened. You're joking. I wish I was. Marla didn't waste a second. She stepped back, cupped her hands to her mouth, and called toward the corner. Hey, Denny, you hear this? Kelly just got fired for helping Jason. By the time Jason blinked, Denny, who ran the hardware store, and 2 high schoolers from the ice cream shop had joined them. Word flew down Main Street faster than a summer storm. People started pouring out of storefronts. Mr. Hanley from the post office, Miss Joyce from the flower shop, a few off-duty firefighters. Everyone asking, what happened? Why would Sydney fire her? Kelly, are you serious? Jason told the story again and again, each time a little louder, a little more frustrated. She didn't take a dime from me, he said. Didn't treat me like I was broken. Just said, come by and I'll fix you up. I ain't had someone talk to me like that in years. I watched from the salon, frozen behind the reception desk. Sydney stood stiffly near the back, her phone clutched in hand, pacing. But she didn't come out. And then something none of us expected happened. A black SUV pulled up in front of the salon, and out stepped the mayor. Mayor Leonard Shaw had been in office for nearly a decade. He was a Vietnam-era vet himself, known for 2 things, being brutally honest and never missing a veteran's funeral. He didn't come alone. Jason was with him, and so was Marla, and behind them, a crowd. Dozens of people now filled the sidewalk like a quiet wave. The mayor adjusted his tie, stepped through our doors, and I swear you could feel the temperature drop 10 degrees. Good afternoon, he said, voice calm but firm. Sydney practically sprinted from her office, smiling like she'd just won a county fair ribbon. Mayor Shaw, what a surprise. What brings you? He raised a hand. I'm here about your employee, Kelly Monroe. I looked at Kelly. She stood near her chair, holding her bag. Her eyes met mine, but she didn't move. She looked stunned, like this was all some dream unraveling too fast. Sydney's smile flickered. Ah, Kelly. Yes, a bit of a misunderstanding, I'm afraid. Is it true you terminated her for giving a free haircut to Mr. Jason Hart? The mayor asked, his voice echoing off the salon walls. Sydney opened her mouth, then glanced at Kelly. There's always more to a story. I don't need stories, Mayor Shaw said. I need the truth. Kelly stepped forward. Yes, she said. Her voice didn't shake. It's true. And then the room shifted. The mayor turned to her, reached into his coat, and pulled out a white envelope and a rolled-up certificate. For your kindness and service to this community, Miss Monroe, he said. We want to recognize what others tried to silence. He handed her the envelope. Inside was a check, and not a small one. I spoke with our small business development office, he added. If you ever wanted to open a salon of your own, you'll find this is a good start. Kelly gasped. I could see her lips tremble. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep treating people like people, the mayor said. That's more valuable than any brand. Behind him, someone started clapping. Then another. Soon the whole crowd outside was cheering. Sydney didn't say a word. Kelly stood there still holding her bag, but now with something more. Hope. That night, I couldn't sleep because I knew something was changing in Millville. Kelly didn't speak much as the mayor handed her the certificate and envelope. Her lips parted, maybe to say thank you, but the words just didn't come. She looked down at the check, then at the small golden seal on the certificate. And for the first time since I'd met her, Kelly Monroe looked completely overwhelmed. Outside, the cheering hadn't stopped. People were still gathering. Mr. Jenkins from the bookstore was shaking hands with Jason. A group of teens from the local high school were filming on their phones. And someone, probably from the church, started a prayer circle right there on the sidewalk. I stepped out from behind the desk and walked over to Kelly. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "I think so. But is this real?" I smiled. "Very." Sydney lingered near her office door, watching it all crumble. Her expression had turned hollow. No more fake smiles, no more clipped professionalism. She looked exactly like someone watching everything she built slip through her fingers. Because it was. That afternoon, people stopped calling Sydney's hair studio. Instead, they called Kelly. I stayed late that night helping her answer messages. Facebook DMs, text messages, even 2 emails from local reporters. One of them said they wanted to feature her on the evening news. Another asked if she'd consider writing a guest column on small-town kindness. "Should I even respond to this?" she asked, holding up her phone. "Girl," I said, laughing, "you just became Millville's most famous stylist. You better get used to it." But as the crowd faded in the sunset behind the hills, Kelly sat alone for a moment in the break room, staring at a picture taped to the fridge. It was from last Christmas. All of us together, smiling in front of the salon tree, Sydney in the center, Kelly right beside her. She took it down quietly, folded it in half, slid it into her bag. The next morning, something wild happened. The line outside Sydney's hair studio never formed. Instead, it formed outside the old shop space 2 blocks down, the one that had been empty since the antique store closed last year, because taped to the window was a white sheet of paper, handwritten, black marker. "Coming soon, Kelly's Corner, grand opening soon. Haircuts, humanity, hope." People were already signing up on a clipboard tacked to the glass. Sydney came storming down the sidewalk at 9 a.m. sharp, heels clicking like gunfire, only to find an empty salon. No clients, no Clara, just echoes and hairspray fumes. She called out my name. I didn't answer. I was already down the street helping Kelly measure the inside of the old store. "Think this corner's big enough for 2 shampoo chairs?" she asked. "I think it's big enough for a future," I said. Jason showed up that afternoon with a toolbox and a smile. He didn't say much, just got to work fixing the broken baseboards and scraping old signage off the front window. When one of the high schoolers from yesterday walked by, he stopped and said, "Hey, sir, thank you for your service." Jason's hand paused. Then he smiled. "No, thank Kelly." By Friday, the local paper had published a front-page story. "Fired for kindness. Now Millville rallies behind hairstylist hero." It included a photo of Kelly sweeping the floor in her new space, sunlight slanting through the dusty glass, her expression humble but determined. Sydney tried to hold on for another week, but by then, even her loyal clients had quietly crossed the street. And Kelly? She didn't just open her salon. She opened a movement, because she added a sign just below her shop name. 1 haircut a week. Free. No questions asked. And every Friday, Jason came in, not for a trim, but to sit by the window and nod politely to whoever came in for that 1 free seat. I asked Kelly once, weeks later, why him? She didn't hesitate. Because he needed to feel like a person again. Not a problem, not a project, just a man. I gave him a haircut, but he gave this town its heart back. 3 months passed, Millville changed. What started as whispers became waves. Kelly's Corner didn't just thrive, it became a landmark. People drove from neighboring towns for appointments. The local paper printed a Customer of the Week column. Every chair was always full, and yet every Friday, 1 chair always remained open until someone, quiet, shy, or simply forgotten, walked in and claimed it without judgment. Jason never missed a Friday. He sat near the window, greeting whoever came for the free haircut like a guardian of grace. He never said much, but his presence said everything. Every time someone thanked him, he'd point to Kelly. I once asked him why he kept coming back. He looked out the window and said, "Because I remember when I thought I didn't matter anymore. Now I get to remind someone else they do." And me, I never went back to Sydney's salon. I became Kelly's receptionist, unofficial manager, and best friend. Some days we stayed late, reorganizing shampoos or laughing over burnt coffee. Other nights, we sat on the steps out front, watching stars bloom over a town that had finally remembered what kindness looked like. But not everyone forgot Sydney. One morning I saw her outside the window, just standing across the street in her gray coat, watching the line outside Kelly's corner. She looked thinner, older. I almost went out to speak with her, but I didn't need to. Because later that same week, Sydney walked through the front door of Kelly's corner for the first time. The salon grew quiet. Jason looked up from his spot, raised one brow, then glanced at Kelly. Kelly paused mid-cut. Sydney stood near the entrance, arms folded tightly like she was holding something in. Regret, shame, or maybe just years of being wrong and finally knowing it. I I won't stay long, she said softly. Kelly said nothing. I just wanted to say, I was wrong about everything. Kelly didn't blink. She placed her scissors down gently, then looked Sydney in the eye. People don't always get second chances, she said, not unkindly. I know, Sydney whispered. There was a silence, long, still, and fragile. Then Jason stood up. He walked over, extended his hand. Sydney stared at it, stunned. Wow, because this place ain't just about hair, Jason said. It's about healing. That includes you. Sydney shook his hand. She turned to Kelly one last time. Thank you for reminding me what this job was supposed to be. Kelly gave a small nod. Take care of yourself, Sydney. And just like that, she left. No drama, no big apology, just honesty, raw and real. As she stepped out, I realized something. Forgiveness was louder than the mayor's speech that day, stronger than the crowd's cheers. It didn't need cameras or headlines. It just needed courage. A month later, Kelly received a package in the mail. No return address, just a small box with a velvet pouch inside. Inside the pouch was a pair of silver scissors. Engraved on the handle, for the one who cuts with heart. Tucked beneath was a note in tight, cursive handwriting. You gave dignity where I only saw dollars. May your hands never forget their purpose towards sin. S. Kelly didn't cry often, but she did then. And that night she placed those scissors in a glass case near the front door. A reminder to herself and to everyone, why this place existed. I still sit by the window some days, sipping coffee and watching strangers become friends. I still hear Jason's deep chuckle when a kid says something wild. I still hear Kelly's voice say, just be yourself, as she welcomes someone new. And every Friday when the doorbell chimes at 9:00 a.m., one chair is still waiting, not for a customer, for a moment of kindness. In our darkest moments, kindness still finds a way, often in the quietest places. Not everyone who helps wants recognition. Some just need to know that today, someone isn't going hungry. And sometimes, that alone is enough to change a life. You may forget the story, but if no one retells it, history stays silent forever. Subscribe to Grateful Stories, where justice is honored, kindness is remembered, and no act of quiet heroism is ever lost.